What if I told you that financial freedom has less to do with how much money you make and more to do with how you think, decide, and act every single day? Most people work their entire lives and still feel trapped, stressed, and dependent. Tony Robbins says this is not a money problem, it's a mindset and strategy problem. The good news? Financial independence is not reserved for the lucky or the wealthy. It's a skill that can be learned. In this video, you'll discover Tony Robbins' most powerful rules for building lasting wealth and freedom. Watch till the end, because the final lesson might completely change how you see money forever. Lesson 1. Master your mindset. Before you chase money. The architecture of wealth is not built with bricks and mortar, but with the invisible blueprints of the human psyche. Tony Robbins consistently posits that success in any endeavor, particularly financial, is 80% psychology and only 20% mechanics. Most people spend their entire lives chasing the how-to, the specific stock tip, the perfect side hustle, or the magic real estate formula, without ever addressing the internal thermostat that regulates their financial comfort zone. If your internal blueprint is set to struggle or just enough, your mind will find creative ways to repel abundance, regardless of how much you earn. This is why lottery winners often end up broke within years. Their external reality expanded, but their internal identity remained small. To master your mindset, you must first conduct a rigorous audit of your subconscious beliefs about money. Are you carrying the baggage of childhood observations where money was the root of all arguments? Do you secretly believe that wealthy people are inherently greedy, or that wanting more is a sign of spiritual lack? These limiting beliefs act as invisible anchors. Until you sever those ties and replace them with an empowering narrative, one where money is a tool for freedom, contribution, and impact, you will remain a prisoner of your own mental limitations. True financial independence starts with a fundamental shift in identity. You must transition from a person who wishes to be wealthy to a person who is a steward of capital. This isn't about fake affirmations. It's about a deep-seated psychological shift in how you perceive your place in the economic world. Wealthy people view themselves as owners and creators, whereas those who struggle often view themselves as consumers and victims of circumstance. Robbins emphasizes that we will never exceed our own self-image. If you see yourself as someone who is bad with money, you will unconsciously make poor decisions to remain congruent with that self-view. To break this cycle, you must consciously adopt the traits of the wealthy: discipline, long-term thinking, and a commitment to excellence. You must stop identifying with your current bank balance and start identifying with your potential for growth. This shift allows you to stop reacting to the economy and start creating your own personal economy. When you change the story you tell yourself about what is possible, you change the filters through which you see the world, suddenly noticing opportunities that were previously invisible to you. A cornerstone of the wealthy mindset is the transition from short-term gratification to long-term vision. We live in a culture designed to keep us in a state of now, pushing us to spend today's energy on today's pleasures. However, Robbins teaches that most people overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in a decade. Wealthy individuals think in decades, generations, and legacies. They understand the power of compounding, not just in their bank accounts, but in their habits and knowledge. This long-term perspective allows them to endure the volatility of the market and the setbacks of life without losing their composure. They focus on growth and contribution rather than security and survival. When your primary focus is survival, you are driven by fear, which narrows your vision. When your focus is contribution, asking how you can add more value to the world, you tap into a higher level of cognitive function and creativity. Wealth becomes the natural byproduct of the value you provide. By mastering your mindset, you move from a scarcity-based existence to an abundance-based life, where money is no longer a source of stress, but a reflection of the person you have become. Lesson 2. Live below your means and control your expenses. There is a pervasive myth in modern society that wealth is defined by a high salary or a flashy lifestyle. Tony Robbins dismantles this illusion by highlighting the earnings gap, the distance between what you bring in and what you let go of. It is an objective truth that it's not how much you make, but how much you keep and, more importantly, how much you invest. We see professional athletes and celebrities who earn tens of millions only to end up in bankruptcy court because their lifestyle creep accelerated faster than their income. Financial independence requires the Stoic discipline to maintain a standard of living that is lower than your capability. This is not about deprivation or living a small, miserable life. It is about strategic preservation. When you control your expenses, you are essentially buying your future freedom. Every dollar saved is not a missed opportunity for a fancy dinner. It is a freedom fighter that can be deployed into the market to work on your behalf. To build true wealth, you must decouple your self-worth from your spending habits. The person who drives a 5-year-old car but has a 6-figure investment account is infinitely wealthier than the person leasing a supercar with a negative net worth. Controlling expenses requires a proactive rather than a reactive approach to capital. Most people operate on a leftover strategy. They pay their bills, buy what they want, and then try to save whatever remains at the end of the month. Invariably, nothing remains. Robbins advocates for the pay yourself first principle, a concept popularized in The Richest Man in Babylon and reinforced in Robbins' own financial teachings. This means automating your savings and investments so that the money is diverted before you even have a chance to see it in your checking account. By making the sacrifice invisible, you adapt your lifestyle to the remaining balance. This creates a forced discipline that builds wealth quietly and consistently. Furthermore, managing expenses involves a ruthless elimination of dumb debt, high-interest credit cards and consumer loans that act as a tax on your future. Debt is essentially a way of eating tomorrow's lunch today. By eliminating these leaks in your financial bucket, you ensure that your hard-earned income is actually building your empire rather than subsidizing a bank's profits. Wealth is built through the smart allocation of resources, directing capital toward assets that appreciate rather than liabilities that depreciate. The ultimate goal of living below your means is to create a critical mass of capital that can eventually sustain you without your physical labor. This requires a shift in perspective where you value financial peace over social status. In a world of social media where everyone is performing wealth, the truly wealthy are often the ones you'd never suspect. They understand that frugality is a tool of the powerful, not a symptom of the poor. By minimizing unnecessary overhead, you lower your financial freedom number, the amount of money you need to cover your expenses. If you can live joyfully on $5,000 a month instead of $10,000, you are twice as close to retirement. This doesn't mean you can't enjoy the finer things in life. It means you only do so when your investments, not your labor, can pay for them. Robbins suggests that you should be a dispenser of capital rather than a consumer of products. When you view every purchase through the lens of its opportunity cost, what that money could have become if invested over 20 years, it becomes much easier to say no to the trivial and yes to your ultimate freedom. Patience and consistency are the twin engines of this process, turning the mundane act of budgeting into a revolutionary act of self-liberation. Lesson 3. Make your money work for you. The most profound realization in the journey toward financial independence is that you can never truly be free as long as your income is tied directly to your time. There are only 24 hours in a day, and if you are the only engine producing revenue, your potential is strictly capped. Tony Robbins emphasizes that the transition from a laborer to an investor is the bridge to true liberty. This involves creating a system where your money works for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, regardless of whether you are sleeping, traveling, or spending time with family. This is the essence of making your money work for you, turning your accumulated capital into a tireless employee. Investing is not a hobby for the rich. It is the fundamental requirement for anyone who wishes to stop trading their life force for a paycheck. By putting your money into productive assets, such as index funds, real estate, or businesses, you are essentially hiring millions of people across the globe to work for you. The goal is to build a money machine that eventually produces enough passive income to cover all your lifestyle needs, rendering work an optional choice rather than a survival necessity. Understanding the mechanics of investing is crucial, as many people avoid the markets out of fear or a lack of understanding. Robbins simplifies this by highlighting the power of compounding, which Albert Einstein famously called the eighth wonder of the world. Compounding is the process where your earnings begin to earn their own earnings. In the early years, the growth seems sluggish and unremarkable, but as the decades pass, the curve turns vertical. To harness this power, one must understand risk and diversification. You don't need to beat the market or find the next unicorn tech stock. You simply need to participate in the long-term growth of the global economy. Robbins often advocates for low-cost index funds as a way for the average person to own a piece of the world's greatest companies without paying exorbitant fees to experts who rarely outperform the market anyway. The key is to avoid emotional decision-making. Most investors lose money because they buy when they are greedy at the top and sell when they are fearful at the bottom. By having a structured system and an all-weather portfolio, you can stay the course through the inevitable storms of the economic cycle, knowing that time is your greatest ally. To truly make your money work for you, you must also master the hidden fees and taxes that can silently erode your wealth. Robbins points out that a 2% fee to a mutual fund manager might seem small, but over 30 years it can consume over half of your potential nest egg. Being a savvy investor means being a sophisticated consumer of financial products. It means looking for tax-efficient ways to grow your wealth, such as utilizing 401ks, IRAs, or other tax-advantaged accounts. It also means understanding asset allocation, deciding how much of your money goes into stocks, bonds, and commodities to protect your downside while capturing the upside. The objective is to create a diversified stream of income that isn't dependent on any single factor. When you have multiple soldiers, investments out in the field, you are no longer vulnerable to the loss of a job or a downturn in a specific industry. Your money becomes a self-sustaining ecosystem. This level of financial sophistication doesn't require an MBA. It requires the humility to learn the basic rules of the game and the discipline to follow them. When your money works harder than you do, you have reached the tipping point where wealth becomes inevitable. Lesson 4. Increase your value, not just your income. The marketplace does not pay for your time, it pays for the value you bring to that time. This is a fundamental law of economics that Tony Robbins hammers home. The secret to wealth is simple. Find a way to add more value than anyone else. If you want to increase your income, you must first increase your personal utility to the world. Many people fall into the trap of asking for a raise based on their needs or their tenure, but the market is indifferent to your bills or how long you've sat in a chair. It only cares about the problems you solve and the results you produce. Therefore, the highest return investment you can ever make is not in the stock market or real estate, but in your own skill set. By becoming valuable, you become in demand. This requires a commitment to canny, constant and never-ending improvement. Whether it is mastering a new technology, refining your public speaking, or developing high-level emotional intelligence, every new skill you acquire increases your leverage. In the modern economy, knowledge is the new currency, and those who stop learning will quickly find themselves obsolete. Investing in yourself means identifying high-income skills. those abilities that are difficult to replace and provide significant leverage for a business or organization. Communication, leadership, sales, and strategic problem-solving are universal skills that transcend industries. When you can lead a team to a goal or communicate a vision that inspires action, you are adding a level of value that is far higher than someone performing a repetitive task. Robbins encourages individuals to move from being specialists to being synthesizers, people who can see the big picture and connect disparate ideas. To do this, you must adopt the mindset of a student of life. Read the books, attend the seminars, find the mentors, and do the difficult work that others are unwilling to do. Mastery is a rare commodity, and because it is rare, it is highly compensated. When you commit to being the best in your field, you are no longer competing for crumbs, you are creating your own opportunities. You shift from a me-centric approach, how much can I get, to a service-centric approach, how much can I give? And paradoxically, the more you focus on giving, the more you inevitably receive. Becoming more valuable also involves developing your inner game, your confidence, your resilience, and your work ethic. Technical skills are the hard assets, but your character is the operating system that runs them. If you have great skills but lack the discipline to follow through or the emotional intelligence to work with others, your value is diminished. Robbins teaches that money follows mastery, and mastery requires an obsession with excellence. You must ask yourself daily, how can I do more for my clients, my company, or my customers than anyone else would even dream of doing? When you provide 10 times the value of what you are paid, you become indispensable. This creates a value loop, where your reputation precedes you, leading to more opportunities, which leads to more growth, and eventually, more wealth. This path to financial independence is the most sustainable because it is rooted in your own personal development. Unlike a stock market crash or a real estate bubble, no one can take away your skills or your character. Your ability to create value is your ultimate wealth insurance, ensuring that no matter what happens in the world, you will always have the power to generate income. Lesson 5. Set clear goals and take massive action. Knowledge is not power. Knowledge is only potential power. Power is the ability to act. Tony Robbins often observes that many people are professional students who collect information but never pull the trigger. To achieve financial independence, you must bridge the gap between knowing and doing through the bridge of massive action. This process begins with absolute clarity. Vagueness is the enemy of execution. If your goal is simply to be rich, your brain has no target to hit. You must define your financial destination with surgical precision. How much money do you need to be financially secure, covering basic needs? How much for financially independent, covering your current lifestyle? And how much for financially free, covering all your dreams? By attaching specific numbers and deadlines to these goals, you turn a vague wish into a concrete mission. Furthermore, you must anchor these goals to a why. Without a strong enough reason, be it providing for your family, creating a legacy, or gaining total autonomy, you will quit the moment the journey becomes difficult. Clarity provides the map, but your why provides the fuel. Once the destination is clear, you must commit to massive action. This doesn't mean taking 1 or 2 steps, it means overwhelming the problem with effort and persistence. Most people fail because they take reasonable action, and when they hit an obstacle, they conclude that the goal is impossible. High achievers understand that rejection and failure are simply feedback mechanisms. If one approach doesn't work, you change your strategy, but you never change your goal. This requires a level of emotional fitness, the ability to stay focused and productive even when you are scared, tired, or uncertain. Robbins suggests that you should never leave the site of a goal-setting session without taking at least one physical action toward that goal, whether it's opening an investment account, calling a mentor, or canceling a subscription. That initial momentum is vital. Success is not a straight line. It is a series of corrections. The faster you act, the faster you get the feedback necessary to refine your path. Massive action isn't about being perfect. It's about being unstoppable in your pursuit of the result. The final component of this lesson is consistency. Massive action is not a one-time event. It is a lifestyle. It is the small, daily habits, the boring work of saving, learning, and producing that compound over time into spectacular results. You must fall in love with the process, not just the prize. Momentum is a powerful force in physics and in finance. Once you get the ball rolling through massive initial effort, it becomes easier to keep it moving. However, the moment you stop, you have to work twice as hard to get it started again. Robbins teaches that we must decide, commit, and follow through. Decision is the spark, commitment is the flame, and following through is the heat that transforms your life. Wealth is not a gift bestowed upon the lucky. It is a mountain climbed by the determined. By setting clear, compelling goals and backing them with relentless, massive action, you take control of your destiny. You move from being a spectator in your own life to being the director of your financial future. The path to independence is open to anyone willing to move forward despite the discomfort, knowing that on the other side of the struggle lies the freedom they've always desired. Financial independence isn't about luck, inheritance, or shortcuts. It's about mindset, discipline, value, and long-term thinking. Tony Robbins' rules remind us that anyone willing to learn, grow, and act consistently can achieve freedom. The question isn't if it's possible. The question is whether you're willing to do what others won't. Start today. Apply just one of these lessons, and your future will begin to change. If this message inspired you, stay committed, because the life you want is built one decision at a time.